So my organization is called Long Beach Grows. We promote food security through urban agriculture, and we advocate for a just and equitable food system. That means food access to everybody, not just those who can afford it. We initially began Long Beach Grows as an educational resource, a website, to provide information to the interested public about community gardening and farming opportunities, advantages and disadvantages, and basically to promote all of the various opportunities that exist in our city of Long Beach, which is a city of about 500,000 people. Okay? And then we have also been seeking land to develop a community farm co-op where people grow food together on a shared land for a shared harvest. And we have one site currently in operation called Long Beach Grows Unity Farm, which I'll talk about again at the end of today's talk. So we're a nonprofit organization, and our parent organization is called Catalyst Long Beach. So I already said our mission is to promote food security through urban agriculture. So what is, so this is a course on sustainability, so I imagine you already have some idea of what that word means, and it's quite an overused word. People are using it all over these days. But the Center for Eco-Literacy defines sustainable as meeting current environmental, economic, and social needs without compromising the well-being of future generations. So live here on this planet, but step lightly, leave few footsteps so that future generations can enjoy the planet as well, at least until the asteroid strikes. Okay. And food security, again, this here is a definition provided by the United States Department of Agriculture, the USDA, and the branch of the USDA called the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. So the USDA claims that food security is affordable, nutritious, culturally appropriate food for all people at all times. That's a pretty good definition. I would like to point out culturally appropriate. If you go to, at least until very recently, when you go to the grocery store and buy whatever you need to eat, you have very limited choices of food. And if you're of a certain background that, for example, prefers to eat pig's feet or chicken feet or whatever, you might not be able to find that food which identifies your culture, which you really, is part of your upbringing and family life. So culturally appropriate means defined by the individual consumer, not by what any government or grocery store tells you is suitable or not suitable. And also you'll notice that the definition of food security by the United States Department of Agriculture doesn't really relate to food safety. And they kind of neglect the issue of food safety in their definition of food security, which is a shame. An expanded definition of food security is provided by the Community Food Security Coalition, which is a national coalition of people who are interested in sustainable food and agriculture systems. And I won't read it out loud, but basically it also points out to the cultural appropriateness of food. And it's about promoting social justice, which means, okay, there are a lot of good food choices in Long Beach, but they're really on the east side of Long Beach where the wealthiest of people live, going to places like what used to be Wild Oats grocery store that was bought out by Whole Foods grocery store, and they still have a limited choice, and it's really quite expensive, and only those people of means can really afford to use that as their routine source of food. So social justice means providing, eliminating food deserts, bringing food of high quality and of cultural appropriateness to every part of the city, not just those parts of the city where people are wealthy. And it's about minimizing our reliance upon the large companies that have taken over our food supply. Most of the food is grown by a handful, is derived from seeds grown by a handful of companies in the world now. And so food security means reducing this monopoly, taking the power out of the hands of the few and giving it to the hands of the many, so that people can grow food on a small scale as opposed to relying upon large-scale agriculture. Small, even local, even in your front or backyard. Well, I guess I'll read this since it's a little small. So, this is another term that yeah. So isn't this actually, isn't there a play feature as opposed to just showing it in your, because when I use it on my computer, there's well, I use a Macintosh, but,
You can go to view full screen.
What's that?
If you go to view, there's a full screen.
Yeah, she doesn't want the full screen. Did you want the full screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah, see, go to view. Right here, full screen.
does that work better?
Yeah.
All right, so a food system. It's referring, a lot of people use the term food system these days. A lot of people use the phrase farm to fork. It's like a food system encompasses everything that is involved in, from the beginning of your food being grown in a farmer's field to when it's ultimately on your plate when you're eating it, and what you do with whatever waste that's left behind. And I'm not necessarily going to talk about every particular step of the food system, but we can just briefly review them right now. So in our current food system that relies on large agribusiness, large farmers that have these mega farms that grow, like basically they specialize in growing one crop or a handful of crops, like all corn or all soybeans or whatever or all alfalfa, right? These large-scale farms growing on large plots of land, use heavy equipment to prepare the soil, plant it, maintain it. These huge crops of one plant type are called monocrops. And by the way, I will be posting this on SlideShare so that you can view it afterwards. So you don't need to scribble every piece of information. And then after it's grown, provided they had a good harvest, they have to harvest it. And again, a lot of crops use either large machinery or certain crops are very delicate, like the fruit, and they hire cheap laborers from other countries to come in and do this really hard labor to pick the fruit. So it's either using machinery, expensive machinery, or cheap, unfair manual labor to harvest that food. And then often this is like food grown. Okay, we live in a large agricultural state, but still a lot of the food that you buy at the grocery store comes from all over the country and indeed all over the world. If you go to trade